to another enlightening episode of the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. I'm your host Maheen, and in today's episode, we dive deep into the world of cybersecurity, a realm that's becoming increasingly essential for businesses to navigate. Joining us is Tony Anscombe, Chief Security Evangelist at ESET, a dynamic, revenue-focused executive boasting over 2 decades of international leadership in business development, partnership, and as a company spokesperson. His extensive understanding of the software, hardware, and mobile technology markets uniquely positions him as a leading voice in fields such as security, privacy, compliance, and child safety online. We're about to discuss the intricacies of backing up business data, the value of strong passwords, the nuances of mobile security, and much more. So whether you're a startup or a well-established entity, you'll want to pay close attention. Let's dive right in. Hi, Tony. On behalf of Canadian SME, I'd love to welcome you to the Small Business Podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, and I'm delighted to be here.
Very excited to have you with us to basically get your invaluable advice on how small business owners can keep their business cyber secure and protected from the ever-present threat actors targeting businesses today. Welcome, Tony. So Tony, one of the tips you provide is basically backing up business critical data. Could you elaborate on how business owners can determine what data is essential to back up and why offline storage is recommended for extra resilience?
Well, firstly, you raise a really good point. Understanding what data, and actually not just data, what devices small businesses are within use in small businesses is really important. I think sometimes big businesses, have that audit trail and they know what devices, applications get put on. But in a small business, maybe where you've got, under 20 employees have email on their own phones, and they may have a tablet, they may have a work device, they may use their home device. So this proliferation of a mix of employer and employee devices means data is spread out all over the place. So firstly, there's understanding where the data is and what devices it's on. And I kind of throw that challenge out there to all those small businesses to actually go write it down. Go create a list of where all the important bits are. And it's also important to understand where your customer data is. And then it's about what the data is. Some small businesses might sit and think, well, I don't actually have any valuable data. Let me tell you do. There's, even if it's your banking information, your bank, the business's banking information, you've got your customer data. You might have intellectual property within your business. You might have lists of suppliers and that you deal with and their financial credentials and such like. So there's huge amounts of data in these businesses, whether they realize it or not. So backing it up is super important. And backing it up into a cloud is convenient, and you can install bits of software on each machine that will automatically back up the important data into a cloud service. But it's also important to have an offline backup. Often a cyber criminal may actually get into a system and they'll encrypt the online backup as well. So they'll in effect infect that online backup. Now, a lot of online backups have the facility to roll back, but if they're clever and they sit there for the 30 days that the other versions are available for, basically they'll have infected things for going backwards as well. So having an offline backup, whether that's to a separate storage device or whether every now and again you actually just back up that cloud backup separately, or maybe the cloud provider provides you that service. Super important. So it gives you best resilience.
Absolutely. And that topic also leads us to another question, which is about anti-malware software, which is very essential for cybersecurity. Tony, could you explain what features business owners should look out for when choosing a reputable vendor's product?
Well, just look for the ESET logo. No, and I jest there because obviously I'm from ESET, but no, there are certain things you should look at, and one of them is look at independent testing results. So, for example, there's a number of places that test product. So you're looking for somebody towards the top of the table that has good detection rates. But more importantly, I think, is you're looking for somebody that uses low resources on the machine, on the device, especially in smaller businesses, because there's a likelihood you might be using older devices in the business. So something that uses least resources, but also something that has low false positives. Now, false positives, what that means is a cybersecurity product flagging something incorrectly, which actually can be more devastating, believe it or not, than something, than not a benign, but a fairly minor virus and such like. Because if something suddenly stops working, it can take a long time to understand why it stopped working and actually recovering from it. So look for those certain things. Those are the important things. Obviously, within the package, it should have layers of security. So it should have different components like ransomware protection, botnet protection, phishing protection, etc. And it should include a firewall in there as well.
Talking about protection, the use of strong, unique passwords and two-factor authentication is highlighted as well to protect accounts. Tony, how can business owners manage and store their passwords securely without compromising convenience?
Well, you could certainly use a password manager. Now, as consumers, a lot of people use the one in their browser, but I'd suggest in a business actually vaulting those and putting it into a password manager package. So some cybersecurity endpoint products include a password manager. And what that means is the password manager actually creates complex passwords for you. And all you need to remember is one complex password to actually access the password manager. So you narrow that down to not having to remember, different passwords for lots of different systems. And that can be deployed across multiple machines. And if you yourself, if you as the business owner, for example, use a mobile phone and you use a laptop, password managers can share information across multiple devices. So it's not fixed to one device either.
And mobile devices are an integral part of modern business operations. What steps can business owners take to secure their mobile devices effectively, and what should they do in case of loss or theft?
Well, first, there's two parts to that question. One is a mobile device is a computer in your pocket. So it needs protecting in exactly the same way that you protect a PC or a Mac or such like. It's the same type of device. In fact, when you think about it, often these days you have far more data and personal information sitting on a mobile device than you do your PC. And yeah, like I say, some of that could be very, very challenging if you lost it. So make sure you've got cybersecurity software on that device. One, to protect it from installing malicious apps or such like, so i.e. malware, viruses and such like. Make sure you're blocking that. But also if phishing links, and we see SMS messages, don't we, on a frequent basis these days, that cyber criminals will text, you've won $100 gift card, or you'll see a phishing link appear in text messages as well. So in the same way you protect a PC, it will protect on those devices. Now, obviously, if somebody loses a mobile device or it's stolen, which is unfortunately more frequent than we think, you can actually remotely wipe the device. So the next time it appears in an online scenario, actually it will automatically wipe the company data off it. Now, there's two ways you can do that. If you are a super small business, so like a small trader or 2 or 3 people in a company, you might just deploy that as, I'll go in and wipe the data if the device gets lost. In a slightly larger environment, you can install mobile device management software, and that will just delete the company element. So that also allows you to help manage if you allow your employees to bring in their own devices, if they leave the company, then you can actually delete your piece off of their device. And you can do that remotely as well. So that's kind of a twofold thing in there.
Right. And that also puts a lot of emphasis on building an incident response plan, which is quite essential as well. Tony, could you explain what key elements a business owner should include in their plan to ensure a swift recovery from a cyber incident?
Well, firstly, a cyber incident plan To me, I would broaden this out and call it a cyber resilience plan, because actually a cyber incident, we tend to think of something like that being a cyber attack. But if we talk about it as cyber resilience, an outage to your business might not be caused by what I define a cyber attack. It might be an internet outage. Think in Canada, we had the issue last year where part of the Rogers network went down in Toronto for a while, and businesses couldn't perform their normal function. And this is when you should be able to lean back, get your cyber resilience plan out, so whether it's a cyber attack or an internet outage, and understand how your business operates without access to certain devices or without access to the internet. Understand how you communicate, one, with your customers during that process, how you operate your business through that process, and how you recover. And it's something you should practice as well. Now, that might sound a little geeky of what you want me to have this fake virus. Yeah, absolutely. Sit around a table and turn and say, okay, we've lost internet connection, or we've got a ransomware attack on these 3 machines. How do we continue to work our business? What's our route out of this? And it's super important that businesses actually make that preparation. And if you think, we make preparations in other ways, don't we? We do fire evacuation drills and all sorts of other things in businesses. This is absolutely no different.
Right. And I think that kind of ties it to the cyber training as well. As long as you have that, I think you're well aware of what steps need to be done in order to even create an incident recovery plan. But cybersecurity training is mentioned as an investment for businesses. Tony, what are the critical topics covered in ESET cybersecurity training program, and how can it benefit businesses of all sizes?
Well, firstly, cybersecurity, as we know, technology is part of the solution. Unfortunately, if you look at actually how cyber attacks start, it's often with human behavior. Our propensity to click on a link, open an attachment, or whatever it may be. Unfortunately, that behavior creates the incursion that the cyber attack needed. So actually, employees need to have that education, importantly, on what they should be looking. So for example, silly things like you pick up a USB stick that's left on a reception desk. Do you plug it into your machine? Or do you know where it come from? Did the last person that came into reception leave it there? Well, the answer is it should never be plugged in. You get an email that looks legitimate, or you get an email that's kind of looks maybe fun. Do you click that link on a work machine? The answer is no. Or you get an email that's asking you to hurriedly send money to one of your suppliers. So somebody responsible for the company finances, thinks they get an email from the CEO or such like, asking them to send money to a supplier quickly, and there's a hurried and there's a progression in it quickly. Was the email address true? Do you know if the CEO's machine has been compromised, etc.? All these things are covered in cybersecurity awareness training, and how to identify how scammers actually use your behavior to actually conduct their malicious activities. And one of the big things in there is actually simulation. So phishing simulation, you can create your own, or you can conduct your own phishing simulation to see whether the training is actually working, whether less people click. So I'd actually recommend running phishing before and after the training. And the other thing I'd say is, even, a lot of companies run this training once a year. Personally, I think it should be more frequent. But also, I'd refresh the topic in people's minds maybe every few months. So when you read an article that says, at the moment, there's an awful lot of DHL or UPS style phishing emails going around, I'd actually send that out to the employees in turn and say, we should be on the lookout for these.
Right.
Bringing it to somebody's mind that there are these fake emails, helps reinforce that training throughout the year.
There's absolutely no doubt that, implementing the right cybersecurity measures is just not an option, but it's a necessity for every business owner. Tony, on a final note, now with this ever-evolving cybersecurity landscape, how can business owners stay informed and updated about the latest threats and best practices to protect their businesses online?
Well, so at ESET, we have a research blog site called welivesecurity.com, and I'd recommend actually subscribing to welivesecurity.com. And the reason being is we publish all our research there, and we publish a lot of guidance and tips on that website. And I will say it's a non-product website, so this is purely informational. As well. So you're not going to, nobody's going to be selling to you continually if you go and subscribe to that website. But obviously, we also have a corporate blog, which talks more about products and how products mitigate against certain types of attacks and stuff like that. So I keep an eye on that corporate blog as well, and that's on eset.com.
Mm-hmm. And it's very crucial, Tony, for all small business owners to really understand, where the risks lie and how to build resilience against these threats. Thank you for joining us today and providing such insightful tips on cybersecurity for businesses. We truly appreciate your expertise and the practical advice you've shared today.
Oh, my pleasure. And one thing I'd say to any small business owner listening to this is, don't think it's not going to happen to you. Unfortunately, cyber attacks are not so much a when, it's not so much an if, it's a when. Unfortunately, all businesses do suffer a cyber attack at some stage.
Right. No, it was our pleasure for you to join us today and just, highlight the risks and everything associated with it. Thank you so much. We'd include a link for the training program by you for the comprehensive guidance on protecting your business online. Thank you so much, Tony.
Oh, my pleasure.
And that wraps up our in-depth conversation with Tony on the importance and nuances of cybersecurity for businesses. The digital landscape is ever-evolving and staying vigilant is paramount. A huge thank you to Tony for sharing his invaluable insights and expertise. To our listeners, we hope you found this conversation as enlightening as we did and that you're now better equipped to protect your business in the digital realm. Before we sign off, we'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our partners who make this podcast possible. A big thank you to our exclusive banking partner, RBC, our exclusive shipping partner, UPS, and our exclusive accounting software partner, Xero. Join us next time for more valuable insights right here on the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Stay safe and stay informed.